Okay, we are recording now. Everybody, please welcome Colonel Lawrence Sellin to our Tea Party meeting this Tuesday. Mr. Sellin, you've written a book called Restoring the Republic, Arguments for a Second American Revolution. It's a small paperback book. Can you expand on that a little bit? We've been investigating you and reading your articles through Family Security Matters. So if you can just kind of give us a quick introduction of yourself, of who you are, and let us know what you've been thinking lately.
Yes, I retired as a colonel in the U.S. Army Reserve. I spent 29 years. I have experience and qualifications in special forces, infantry, medical services, and chemical. I did 2 tours in Afghanistan and one in Iraq. As I said, I retired as a colonel. I had a civilian career in international business and information technology. I've also retired from that career, and I presently write for the website Family Security Matters on issues of politics and national security, and some military issues as well. Um, what I like, if I may, just give a shout out to Joe Shriver.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, he's an old friend of mine. We've been communicating a long time. So hi, Joe.
yeah. Hopefully you'll be at the meeting tonight. And isn't that something? I mean, that's crazy. That
Yeah, well, I hope so. I'll just so hi to Joe.
Okay, great.
About my book, it's about restoring the republic, arguments for a second American Revolution. But really, there are two primary uh, issues that I bring up in that book, and this was written in 2013, but these issues are still relevant for our election in 2016, uh, and they are first that uh, our political media establishment is hopelessly corrupt, and secondly, that although we have elections, we no longer have representative government.
Hmm.
And I think all of our issues, whether we talk about the economy, whether we talk about immigration, whether we, ISIS, Iran, any of those, in my mind, cannot be solved effectively as long as we have a corrupt government and media, and we really don't have representative government anymore. So I think those are the main issues from which all the others, uh, uh, become either become insolvable essentially.
Okay, yeah. So you're saying with the media biased and that's not giving us the true story of exactly what's going on with our representation in D.C. And both Republicans and Democrats aren't representing the people, even more so, it seems like today.
Yeah, no, I think first of all the media, most of the media, which is what we could usually call the mainstream media, is liberal. They're really shills for the Democratic Party. Uh, the Fox News is better, but it's still representing the Republican establishment, and you can see that from their reporting. So it's very difficult to ascertain what exactly is going on when you have really biased reporting based on either the Democrat or Republican establishment. So it's very difficult for the American people to really get the truth and really make decisions about the future of the country when you just don't have the proper information getting to them. And this really parallels what's happening in the political arena. You have essentially what I call and what a lot of people call a uniparty. I
Hmm.
mean, we have
Yeah.
a political establishment that is like an oligarchy. It's a relatively small group of politicians, journalists, and financiers who are running the country. And you can see now, the tremendous blowback that Donald Trump is getting from both parties. I mean, they're both trying to, put down Donald Trump because uh, they are afraid of him because he is not really one of them in many respects. Uh, he's independent of them. He's not, and also I think uh, although they're afraid of losing power, obviously, they're more afraid of Donald Trump because he might investigate and prosecute.
You think so? You think he would
Oh,
really?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, I think he that's what they're desperately afraid of, because
Okay.
getting back to my original arguments is that when you have a hopelessly corrupt media and a political parties, and you can see that now because he's attacking them all the time, and he's really the only candidate we have right now who's effectively challenging the political media establishment, and you can see that they both hate him. Both Republicans and Democrats really dislike the guy and don't want him to win, and doing everything possible to prevent him from being the nominee and being elected.
Uh-huh.
So that tells you that, and it's become blatantly obvious, the bias of the establishment, essentially against independent voices.
What do you think? We've got our Republican representatives in D.C. They seem to be going against the will of being a constitutional conservative. They've seemed to switch more to the left. But what about our, I always say, what about our military generals or, our high-ranking officers? They just got to be chomping at the bit to say something, or the direction of the country is awful, and is there more of the president's people in those positions of power than generals and high-ranking military that are against them?
Well, the short answer is yes. Is what Obama has done to the senior leadership in the military is basically cull the herd.
Okay.
He's the people who might oppose him in any way, shape, or form have been, moved out of important positions, not promoted, or retired. So essentially, you have many in the senior levels of the military who are Obama people, selected by Obama. So they're naturally they're not going to oppose him in any way. But of course, in the military, it's difficult. You have this dilemma because you're really controlled by the civilian part of the government. The commander-in-chief is the president, so there's a natural resistance by all people in the military not to oppose the commander-in-chief. That's natural, and is also the right thing to do. But also, we've had a trend in the military about careerism, that people will take the politically correct stand and not, although they show great physical courage, they don't always show moral courage.
Okay.
And you end up with people in the highest levels of the military who can be careerists and only thinking about their careers and not rocking the boat. And many of them, you see, after retirement, they start speaking out, which is, in a sense, too late.
Right. Yeah, I yell at the TV all the time. You see these great men in front of, in the little box on Fox News complaining about what's going on, and they just retired, a half a year ago or 3 months ago. And why didn't you say it when you were in command, or really make a statement, or even have a soft coup maybe? My gosh.
Well, yeah, it's because they wouldn't be on that little box in Fox News if they had spoken out.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah. So you say the arguments for a second American Revolution. Do you feel that has started here in the States, or what can we do to get it even, put the foot on the gas?
Well, I think it has started, and I think it's really, and I'm not trying to shill for Donald Trump, but I think he is largely responsible in this election cycle for allowing essentially the American people to speak about issues that probably wouldn't have been spoken about if he wasn't there. So the fact, the reason he is so popular is because he is challenging the political media establishment. And I think, that's in a sense the essence of the Second American Revolution, or if you want to say a political insurgency, which a lot of people talk about. I think even if you don't like Donald Trump as a man, you can really like what he's doing because he's really opening up the discussion of issues which Americans, I think, feel very strongly about, but have been inhibited by not only the political establishment, but by the media. So we're beginning to see through Donald Trump a way to actually challenge the establishment and institute changes that need to be made in our government and in our political system.
Who do you think he's going to surround himself? Say he gets the presidency. Do you think he'll reach out to just his old buddy system, or who do you think he's going to reach out as far as his cabinet? You have any feel for that?
Well, it's hard to say, but because I can't, obviously can't read his mind. But
right.
If he's a businessman, and he has the, not only the training but the temperament of a businessman, which means to me is that he'll probably try to select the best people possible because he's a guy that likes to win. And when he wants things done, he's going to choose the best people to get those things done. At least that's my impression. So I think we're likely to see him reaching out far beyond the usual suspects for government positions and introducing people into the system that have expertise that may not be political but can get the job done. So I'm fairly confident in that aspect of Mr. Trump.
Okay. I know Dick's got some thoughts as far as, and Dick might have predicted this about a year or so ago, as concerning the election coming up in November. Dick's going to ask a question.
Yeah, Colonel.
Yeah, sure.
Can you hear Dick okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for being with us. So, to the extent that I've seen your writing on the left and their use of Islam, the interplay between the long-term goals of the left and of Islam. And as we see things happening more rapidly now, in your mind, what do you think the chances of the left and Islam together taking drastic action? If Trump could, in fact, be the essence or the spark plug for a second revolution, can you imagine a situation where the left would just have some kind of a collection of incidents where they would be somehow able to call martial law and put the election off? Or is that something that just we should just put out of our minds, or should we prepare for that option as well as the more normal option?
I would prepare for any possibility. I never underestimate the political left and the radical Islamists, and they are actually working together because although on face value they seem like opposite poles of the political spectrum or religious spectrum or however you want to describe it, they actually have something very much in common, is that they're totalitarian in their philosophies, both the political left and the radical Islamists. They don't believe in Western civilization. They don't believe in a Judeo-Christian based democracy. So they have that in common. And that's why they're working together. I mean, you can see it almost on a daily basis that the political left will be supporting, Islam, supporting those goals like of the Muslim Brotherhood, for example. So it would not surprise me at all if there were artificial incidents to create a situation where you might have martial law declared and even an election postponed. And I think although it's probably less, there's less probability for that than other things. I think we still should be vigilant.
Okay, so you're as far as the left has gone extreme left. That's where Obama has taken the party, and you talk about the Muslim Brotherhood, and as a matter of fact, today in Michigan, just 20 miles west of us, CARE is going to have a meeting and try to get some sympathy going for the immigration refugees here into Michigan. And they're even using Martin Luther King Day to kind of support that. There's nothing to see here. But yet, as we know, CARE is part of the Muslim Brotherhood. Do you see the Muslim Brotherhood as part of the infiltration of the White House, even going back to George Bush?
Well, absolutely. There's no question, at least in my mind, that the Muslim Brotherhood has infiltrated the U.S. government through the people who are there, like, for example, Barack Obama and Valerie Jarrett and fellow travelers. And it's the goal of the Muslim Brotherhood, not only to make a global caliphate, but to install Sharia law. So you have an organization like CARE, which is really an Islamist or Muslim Brotherhood front group. As you know, they were unindicted conspirators in a trial. I think it was in Florida. So there's no question in my mind that these are people who are following the dictates of the Muslim Brotherhood, who want a global caliphate, who want Sharia law installed, and they tend to create incidents. I mean, you can see this over and over again, like the clock boy down in Texas with his, homemade bomb that he brought to school. Incidents of, there was a stewardess on one of the airlines who refused to serve alcohol, or you have people walking out of a factory. I forget where it was. I think it was up near your way in the Midwest somewhere, where Muslims were praying and walked out of the factory. They all got fired, as far as I recall. But so many of these are deliberate provocations, and it's like the old days of the communists sticking the knife in and seeing how far it goes before we start screaming. Yeah. So they're very subtly not only trying to create, as you say, issues of Islamophobia, to put the rest of the country back on their heels, but they're beginning to slowly try to install Sharia law, either through incidents like that or infiltration of our schools and the curriculum. So this is a very active thing on their part, and I think we can all agree that Sharia is simply incompatible with the Constitution. It's as simple as that.
Sure. Yeah, we have educated ourselves through some information that we had been available to, and it's the 100-year project of the Muslim Brotherhood, which they found through the Holy Land Foundation investigation. And it's the Muslim Brotherhood, it's like maybe 25 goals that they have to slowly infiltrate the West through the press, through government, wear the suits and ties, and they're already 35 years into this plan. Have you heard of anything like that over in your travels with Europe? I know right now in Europe they're being inundated with the refugees. Do you see that accelerating in that part of the world too?
Oh, there's no question about it. I think this is part of the plan. What you're seeing is an invasion, essentially, of Europe, where you bring in a lot of Muslim refugees, and they begin to, agitate, and they're talking about things like procreating a lot of Muslim children to take over the society. They begin to intimidate people. If you see what's happening with this whole business about sexual assaults throughout Europe, it's intentional, because what they're trying to do is say, well, basically you can't defend your women. So it's an intimidation practice. It's a way of breaking down society and showing the weakness of Western civilization in general. So it's all a deliberate plan on their part.
Yeah, it's frightening, because you've got the Saul Alinsky tactics out there, You've got Marxist goals for taking over the West. And, now you've got radical Islam and the establishment of the caliphate. So we've got a lot of different fronts coming at us. And always our concern is how do we grow, our Tea Party group or inform the lower information voter. Sometimes when we talk to our friends and family, we get looked at like we're coming from Mars sometimes. But I think as time is progressing, especially this year, our friends are seeing all what we've been talking about, the dangers of all of this is starting to come true a lot quicker. Can you give us any tips as far as how to really hammer it home or show everybody your book, right?
Well, I think perseverance is the answer here. That you really need to do what they're doing. I mean, as you say, the Muslim Brotherhood is looking at a 100-year plan, and the radical left, has been doing this since 1917. So, and they don't go away. I thought, when Reagan got elected twice, I thought, well, that's the end of the radical left. But they're back again.
Right.
And they're back again. They're back again in force, and they're allied with the radical Islamists. So, you just have to keep fighting. You have to keep in every way that you can, because they're probing all the time. As I said, you have Sharia. They're trying to introduce Sharia into our schools, into our society in general. Very, very slowly, but they're constantly at it. And the only way to ward that off is to, constantly fight back in every way that you can, through informing people, through, civic action, through elections, and pointing out the danger of what they're trying to do. Because as I said earlier, they're both the radical left and Islamists are totalitarians. They don't believe in democracy. They don't believe in our republic. They don't believe in Western civilization. So, you can't, these are people you can't compromise with.
Do you think, the United States has been hit? San Bernardino, the Philly cop shooting. I think we just picked up a couple more guys in Virginia, one down in Texas that they were plotting attacks. Do you think it's going to get accelerated, or is ISIS just going to pinprick us, radical Islam here in the States, instead of another big attack? What's your...
No, they're going for a big attack.
Yeah.
They're going to continue with with this quote lone wolves. They're not really lone
right.
wolves.
I hate that term.
They're part of the effort. But what they're looking for is something like weapons of mass destruction. Where they're studying, chemical weapons now. They're using them, for example, mustard gas in Syria and Iraq. ISIS is. They're looking to try to develop sarin, which is a nerve gas, or dirty bombs, anything that might cause a big incident. If they can't do that, they're going to try to get a lot of shooters in a shopping mall or some other public venue.
Yeah.
So that they're looking for the big play.
Okay.
But in the meantime, they're going to continue with these smaller attacks, but still tragic and devastating certainly on a personal level. But you can see it on the political left as well. Ferguson, the Black Lives Matter, Occupy Wall Street. This is all the same stuff. A lot of the funding is coming from the Communist Party USA. It's coming from the Soros groups. It's all being funded by the radical left, and it's trying to disrupt our society, trying to demoralize Americans, such that the society in general becomes more vulnerable to be taken over either by Sharia or the radical left. It's all intentional.
Dick's got another question for you, Colonel.
Well, before I ask the question, I just want to say I think what you just said really is a conversation about the agenda, the large strategic agenda for worldwide domination and the problem that we have in the West. The other big player who's become more prominent, we've had the Muslim Brotherhood attention from the Arab Spring. But now we have Iran in the picture, which I guess is the Shia guys, the guys on the Shia side of the Muslim Brotherhood who are Sunnis. So can you talk to us a little bit about the power and the emergence of Iran and how they play into this, even to the recent incidents we've had in the last week, and what we should be expecting from Iran vis-a-vis weapons of mass destruction, Israel, United States?
Well, Iran since 1979 has been a state sponsor of terrorism. So I think you're going to see that continuing. This particular deal that we just had, nuclear deal with them, is a dangerous joke. It really allows them, albeit over maybe perhaps 10 years, but it allows them to produce a nuclear weapon. It also, as we've just given, I think it was, yesterday or today, Obama signed off on the $1.5 billion that was released, from the United States, which essentially they're just going to put for more weapons and more terrorism. So I think you can expect them to be more and more aggressive. I mean, they think they're winning. This incident we just had in the Persian Gulf with the sailors, and I don't know we don't know the details of what had actually happened, but it was incredibly embarrassing. This is the same time we're supposedly making a deal with them, as they're continuing to attack us. I served in northern Iraq, so I know the areas where ISIS is in, and I was along the Iranian border. A lot of my work there had to do with preventing, things like IEDs or anti-armor grenade attacks. And these anti-armor grenades were coming from Iran. They were being shipped in across the border from Iran, and they were being used by the insurgents in Iraq to attack our convoys. So, I have direct experience with that type of thing. And Iran wants to be a regional power. And unfortunately, Barack Obama and Valerie Jarrett agree that Iran should be a regional power. So they're essentially empowering Iran and in the process making it more and more difficult to counter terrorism and to fight against the hegemony that Iran represents, not only in the region but globally in terms of terrorism. So what they have essentially done by this nuclear deal is leave us with only one option, that eventually, maybe not next week or maybe not next year, but there's going to be a war. Either we're going to stop them from getting nuclear weapons and using them, which they promised to use, at least starting with Israel and then us if they can do it. The only way to stop them is militarily, because we had sanctions that were in place that were effective, and we've given them up essentially. So we don't have any leverage anymore other than the military option. So it's a much more dangerous situation now than it has been.
Yeah, it seems like our president is arming our enemies before he leaves office. The release of Gitmo terrorists and this hostage deal, and North Korea, Iran now. So, yeah, the world is getting much, much more dangerous as the months go on before November.
Well, I read a report this morning that I don't know if it's been verified, but the report said that North Korea is actually testing Iran's weapons. So, and it's been already known that North Korea supplied, technology or missile parts or whole missiles to Iran already. So it's just becoming more and more dangerous as the U.S. becomes apparently more weaker.
Yeah, we'll only keep you a couple more minutes, Colonel. But do you keep in contact with some of your military friends who are still in the military, and how is the overall morale of the military nowadays?
It stinks, in a word.
Yeah.
it's become a social engineering project and a political correctness project. I mean, there's more and more of these types of training related to, political correctness and social engineering in the military, and less on, combat effectiveness. So the feedback that I'm getting is the morale is probably as worse than it's ever been since I joined the military, over 30 years ago. So it's a very serious situation. We're eventually reaching the point not only in numbers of troops and equipment and materiel, but as you say, morale. We're going to be we are already a less effective fighting force.
You had mentioned you had been stationed in Afghanistan, and I had noticed through the Military Times that there were 19 deaths for the month of November, most of that in Afghanistan from small arms fire and IEDs. What's the mission in Afghanistan nowadays?
I don't think anybody knows anymore. It started out when we first went in there in 2001. It was counterterrorism. We were going to take out the Taliban. Then it became nation building, and huge amounts of money were spent on the infrastructure and creating the Afghan army. And now you have so few troops there and the rules of engagement are impossible. I mean, you can't. They're already bad when I was there the last time, but it's gotten even worse.
When does that ever? I mean, that didn't happen in World War II, did it? Rules of engagement, right? I mean, Vietnam. No. I mean, that's just even in the Benghazi movie that we saw today, the one command post leader, I can't think of his exact title, CIA chief, he says, don't shoot the guys unless you can see they have a gun in their hand.
Right. Well, that's what I mean.
They see all these guys running around. They're the bad guys, but you can't shoot until you see the gun. I mean, that's crazy.
No, it's exactly. The rules of engagement have become impossible. Even when I was in Afghanistan, I can tell you, I was at the headquarters the last time I was there, and we had lawyers there approving our special operations missions. So they would go through it, and there was this whole thing about whether it should be what we call a hard knock or a soft knock, meaning do you kick the door down or do you knock on the door and ask to come in? I mean, it was at that level, and as I said, every one of those missions, the lawyer had to go through it. It was ridiculous then in many respects, and it's even worse now.
Well, just to kind of wrap up. I Google searched your name just to see what would come up, and I saw the PowerPoint article that you wrote, and I thought that was great. I mean,
so you read it actually?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. What was your saying? You could swing a dead cat in the room and hit every colonel or something?
Yeah, you couldn't swing a dead cat without hitting a colonel.
Yeah.
But what's interesting about that, I mean, it got a lot of play even internationally.
Well, I heard you got a lot of kudos, right?
Oh yeah, no, I got messages from thousands of troops saying, thank you. I can't stand all this, this PowerPoint culture that we have in the military. From every service, I can tell you, Marines, Navy, all of them. Yeah. But it's interesting because I was writing articles before that one while I was in Afghanistan, and they knew about it.
Okay.
But these were kind of matter-of-fact type articles. But I don't know what triggered it. I guess it was because I'd been to so many of these like 2 to 3 hour PowerPoint presentations.
My gosh.
No, really, I'm not kidding. 90 to 100 slides, all the same, except all looking the same. But the information on each slide was a bit different. And I couldn't stand it anymore because we were eating up so much time doing that. And we had 2 command briefings a day, the commander's daily update or commander's update. It was twice a day when each of the shifts went on and off. But you know, they again, it was the same, all the same slides with different information. But the generals never asked so much about the actual information, but about how it was presented.
Yeah.
You know, whether you should present it in this way or that way.
Oh,
Not asking so much about the actual, you know, data that was being presented. But so I at that point I wrote what was meant to be a humorous article, you know, satire, but they didn't think it was so funny. So
Yeah.
they were not pleased at all. Or I should say, only one general in particular was really displeased. The other one said, "Oh, right, well, you shouldn't have done that."
Yeah. Well, congratulations to you for standing up and saying what was right. And it takes a good, brave man to do that. And whether you're
Or a crazy one, or a crazy.
Yeah. Well, hey, we're going to let you go. I know it's getting late there where you're at. So now you probably want to wrap up your day. But we're going to show this at our meeting tomorrow. There's been a lot of buzz about your appearance, even though it won't be live. We told everybody we were going to tape it. And I found this little app for Skype that you can record your Skype calls. And we do a lot of Skype calls, so this is really going to help us to archive them and post them. So you wouldn't mind if we did post this interview on our website?
No, not at all. Not
Okay.
at all. Please.
All right. Thank you for your permission on that. And if we can ever look you up again down the road, if things get kind of crazy, or you've got my email address, and if you just want to let off some steam to a bunch of good old American patriots here in Michigan, look me up, and we'll be glad to have you again.
Well, I'd be glad also. Thank you very much, Gary. I appreciate it.
Okay. All right, sir. Good night. Take care. Have a good week. And we'll be in touch. And thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you, sir.